Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and excited to remind you that the second edition of the Codist is now finally in print after a huge legal delay with the publisher that went out of business. We are back in business, the Codist. The mystery behind Aaron's robe, the secret of the weaponization of DNA, and how Satan is trying to take out the Jewish leadership to keep Jesus from returning. It is a biblical thriller and a bestseller, and you got to get your copy, whether on Kindle or on paperback. It's available through Amazon directly. And the announcement of my new release of the 7 Laws of Abundant Living, Lessons Learned from the Tree of Life. We take you from the ground, from the very dirt, and show you 7 particular spiritual truths where God uses the natural to reveal the supernatural, all the way through the tree of life found in the Garden of Eden and in the river of life found in the book of Revelation. You can find all that information on ignitinganation.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, input your email address, and get the first chapter for free. It has been my pleasure to tell you that I have never, in all my career that began in radio in 1973, ever had a guest where September, October, November, December, January, and I got them on February 2nd. I have never worked so hard, and we've had so many challenges that this is a personal delight for me to introduce you to our guest, Tim Timmons, a singer, songwriter, worship leader, and founder of 10,000 Minutes, the nonprofit equipping ministry led by Tim and executed through various creative outlets such as live performances, blogs, podcasts, video, songwriting, devotionals, worship leader interaction, speaking, film, and television production, conferences. 10,000 Minutes exists. 10,000 Minutes Kids exists to invite, inspire, and equip people to know and follow Jesus all week long. All right, to find more about 10,000 Minutes or to read his latest blog, go to 10,000minutes.com. You know, Tim, I am just delighted to have you on the program. It is God's appointed time for this.
Awesome.
It's interesting that you looked at the week and said there's 10,080 minutes in a week.
Yeah.
And for 80 minutes, we carved out this little window, this little checkbox on this large calendar, and 80 minutes we're going to give to God. And then these other 10,000 minutes, we're going to go do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And that bothered you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a pastor for so long. I was pastor for 15 years in California, in Orange County, California, and it was awesome. And an amazing church community. It's called Mariners Church. It was so great. Love those people. Love what I got to do. But about 8 years ago, I left Mariners about 7 years ago. But about 8 years ago, it started hitting me that we keep telling everybody, hey, bring your people here and we'll tell them about Jesus. And then we'd do our thing. We'd have a great service. Now, I just want to say this about the 80-minute gatherings. And it depends on what flavor you are, and that could be longer or shorter. But for us, it was about an 80-minute gathering of the church. And remember, churches obviously is not a thing you can do or a place you can go.
Right.
But it's who we are, gathered and scattered as Jesus people. And so this idea was like, I've put my whole life into this 80 minutes. And we're always saying this is a beautiful thing. And I just want to put this out there that the 80 minutes are beautiful. When we gather, it is so beautiful because, and I don't want to damn the 80 minutes, it's so great because we get to practice what it looks like and what it feels like to, in a safe environment, to practice Jesus. Like when I'm raising my hands as I'm singing a song and I'm surrendering, going, okay, whatever, I surrender all, I surrender all. I'm really practicing what the next 10,000 minutes could look like. But I guess for the most part, I think us in the church, we've just kind of gone, man, that was a great message. Or man, the Greek word on that, the Hebrew word on that is really great, which I love those things. But generally, they stay right there as, well, that was a cool, powerful comment. And I read a statistic that 80% of people, by the time they get home, forget everything that just happened in the gathering.
Absolutely. You know, there's two things that you mentioned that I want to hone in on.
Yeah.
The first one is, in the Hebrew, it's Hine matovu manayim shebachamim gam yachad. Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. The Bible tells us not to forsake the assembly of the brethren. So that 80 minutes is God ordained. It is important, an important gathering. The other one you mentioned was I lift my hands and surrender. And I'm so glad you did that, because I know when I tell you this, you're going to do something with it, and it's going to make its way, because it is going to be an eye-opener and a stunner for you.
Cool.
The Bible says, who can go up the mountain of the Lord? The one who has clean hands. When I lift my hands to the Lord, we've been teaching people this is surrender. And in fact, I'm going up the mountain of the Lord. I raise my hands and I say, Lord, inspect my hands and see what I have set my hands to do. The one who can go up the mountain of the Lord is the one with clean hands, meaning God is going to inspect our hands to see what we have done in those 10,000 minutes before we got there for the 80.
Okay, I'm going to chew on that. I like that.
I want you to picture that. Because he says, who can go up the mountain of the Lord? It's the one with clean hands. Okay?
Yeah.
This was the laver bowl for the priest. This was the washing of the hands. And we get there in church, and listen, I know there's many people that don't get ready for church the way that you and I might get ready, which is take a shower. All right? They may come off the street. They may not have the availability of facilities. But predominantly, we bathe, we shower, we bathe, we clean, we wash our hands before we go to church.
Yeah.
All right? Then we present our hands. All right? Can we go up the mountain of the Lord? Well, I don't know. Let me check. Let me look at your hands. Are they clean? Have you set yourself to my work? Now, from a spiritual perspective, we got these 10,000 minutes. Okay? What have I been doing? Well, you notice somebody might have dirt under their fingernails. They wash their hands. Their hands aren't dirty, but they're kind of crusty, crummy. Well, what have you been doing all week? Well, I've been digging in this, or I've been in this sin, I've been doing all this. And you start to think about the larger picture, about the magnitude and the sovereignty of God, and all of a sudden it leads us into a whole new idea of worship, which says, first, let me present myself to you. All right? I was created to worship. I've come to worship you. All right? Accept my worship.
Yeah.
Just because I present worship to you doesn't mean you've accepted my worship. Examine my heart. All right? And
contrite heart, right.
Right. And in fact, examine it and clean it and renew a right spirit within me. And you're reaching an audience, and you write 10,000 minutes, which is you have the kids, 10,000 minutes, and the songs for the kids, and you're raising this generation and impacting this generation that needs to be impacted. These kids are impacting their moms and dads because they're praying for each other. I watched 2 4-year-olds on a playground, and one fell down, and the other one helped him up, and he put his hand on his knee, all right, and he bowed his head, and he said, Lord, please help heal my friend's knee and make his pain go away. And my heart broke for the Lord because somewhere along the line somebody got to him. That's your vision. Help share that vision with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I have kids. I don't do kids. Kids stuff isn't what I do in life. But I have kids. I was a kid once. And I think there are certain songs that were prayers to me as a kid that I still use. Like when I'm in certain moments, there's this power in music that God gave us, and in these songs that really are these prayers. And I just was like, man, I'd love to give my kids and other kids some prayers to start praying all week long and to start living out these things as if they're true. And there's some prayers that I prayed as a kid that I'm like, oh my gosh, that actually hurt how I see God. That actually shaped my heart in not a beautiful way.
Right.
Then there's some songs that like invite me into this life where Jesus is at work in all things, and I don't have to be a believer about him. I get to actually be a believer in him and like follow him. The difference in the word believe obviously is I've always taken it as, well, if I just believe it's true. It's like me saying I believe eating healthy and working out are the best things for my body. I mean, how many of you watching right now or listening right now believe that eating healthy and working out are the best things for your body? So then my question is, what did you eat for dinner last night? And ultimately I'd say that's probably not really, you probably actually don't believe that. The way that Jesus used believe, when rarely did Jesus actually use the word believe, by the way, which is so crazy. Us Christian people, I don't even say us, but Christian people use the word believe all the time.
Right.
But Jesus didn't. But when he did, it meant to be found living as though something is true. And so if we can like invite our kids out of just believing about Jesus, but being followers of Jesus, I mean, that's just such a different, and it's a nuanced thing. But so I just want to give kids something to pray. And really, I think their parents are praying these same things. And then as I deal with adults and families, how do we help each other practice the thing Jesus said? So really, it all comes from Jesus at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus is on a mountain talking to people.
Right.
He says, so all these invitations I just gave you about worry, about praying, about all these amazing things, all these invitations. Whoever hears my words and puts them into practice all week long is wise. And if you don't, it's just foolish. I mean, you're not loved any less, but it's just foolish. And I started seeing my life in the 10,000 minutes going, and I'm pretty foolish. I mean, I'm rocket in the 80 minutes. I mean, I can do that stuff all day long, and I can tell you guys all about Jesus. But once the 10,000 minutes come, somebody cuts me off on the road, and I'm like, I want to tell them that they're number one and some other things, when that's actually not the way of Jesus, and not that it's just not the way of Jesus. It's actually it's wise for me to actually start praying for that person. That would be Jesus' invitation. I have a cool story. My son, who's 8, and he's really cute. He came to me, a few months ago and said, Dad, this kid keeps calling me fatty at school and taking my water bottle and said, you can't get it, you're so fat. And I'm like, like, what is this kid? What bus is this kid on? Because I'm going to take that kid out. I was ready. And so I said, buddy, I want to tell you to hit that kid in the face. Like, just sock him in the mouth. But I said, buddy, what's the 10,000 minute practice this week that we're practicing? It's praying for our enemies. And buddy, you and I are going to pray every night, every day for this kid. And you know what? He may not even change, but you and I's hearts are going to change in this for him and just in this whole situation. So he could have heard this at our 80-minute gathering and made a little craft about it, and then we just all went home.
Right.
And then he'd, or we could put Jesus's practices in place. And so we prayed for this kid, and it changed my heart probably more than my son's heart because I needed it. But at the end of the week, my son came up to me and was like, Dad, I did it. I'm like, you hit him? He said, no. He said, he called me fatty and said, you can't get this, you're so fat. And I said, don't call me that again, and I want my water back, please. And the kid's like, okay, and gave him his water right back. But it was this cool story of how my son, who's 8, got to practice a Jesus principle instead of just hearing something at our gathering and just walking away. We put it into practice, and my son changed. That weekend, I got ridiculed at some conference I was leading about a song that I'd written. These people were asking, what scripture did you use? And And I'm fine to talk about that stuff. I'll do that all day long. But the way they came was so mean and mean-hearted and just not beautiful. And every time they'd come up and kept sharing the stuff and kind of pushing at me really hard. And at first I'm like, these people are my enemies. And that same weekend I thought, oh my gosh, Jesus, this is the practice. You've asked me to pray for these guys. So I started praying for these people and my heart starts to change. All to say, this is why we do this 10,000 minute thing, is that if we as Jesus' people begin to put his words and heart into practice, oh my gosh, it's a game changer. It has been in my life. So that's what's been so fun as I listen to all these other people that are doing these practices with us every week. So
now you're putting out as part of 10,000 minutes. Are you looking to distinguish this from your music? Use the music as a platform to reach. What's the overarching vision you created so that you can leverage? Look, people know you as a world-class musician and follow you and buy your CDs, and you have their ear, and now you're asking them to incline their ear a little bit different way, which is they're singing the words that you now want them to apply.
Yeah, it's well said.
The words. And it's not like most would do, which I get tons of books in here by musicians that have written a book, what I want you to do with my music, how I want you to apply my songs. But what you've done is you say, no, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to give you the words through my music because it's Christian music, it's biblical music, but then I'm going to give you and work with you to help create a framework in which to build a house for the Lord that doesn't put a steeple on the upper room.
Yeah. And I would even change for the Lord. I don't work for Jesus anymore, just so you know. I'm done working for him. I'm over it. It left me exhausted in my soul. And I've just decided that I know it's just semantics, but I just hang with him, and I work with him all day. And that's what's been so changing. And I think if we all saw our lives as more like working with him, it's almost like me as a dad. Somebody said this the other day, and it kind of rocked my world a little bit. Somebody said, would you ever, as a dad, say, I want to use my son to do this? I'm like, nope. I don't think I'd use my son to do anything. I love him, and I want to help him be who he was created to be. And so I don't feel used. I just feel like I get to work with Jesus. And so with my music and my radio songs, that's all for influence. I don't really care about all the accolades and all those things. I'm over that stuff. I'm too old to be awesome.
Well,
in this industry.
I agree with you, because God is not asking anybody to do more for him.
Right.
He is only asking people to do more with him. And when you said, I'm not working for him anymore, I'm working with him. This is, your marriage was to be a cord of three strands. Your ministry is to be a cord of three strands. Your life is to be a cord of three strands. God is not actually asking you to perform for him. Right? You are there at the throne with him, singing, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts.
Writing notes, just so you know. Thank you. That's helpful. That's cool.
The whole earth is filled with his glory, and all I am is a glory sharer. I didn't create the glory. I didn't invent the glory. All right? And all I'm supposed to do is reflect the glory. All I got to do is be a mirror, all right, and stand there and reflect. All right?
Yeah.
I don't even have to break.
So much more fun.
I don't have to break a sweat.
Yeah, it's so much more fun. And that was a change in me that happened 8 years ago. That I think it was this. I was a varsity American Christian, if you will. I mean, I had Letterman jacket and the whole deal. I was awesome. I knew all about Jesus. I could, point somebody out in the crowd, and I will go win them to our club. But ultimately, I knew all about Jesus. I just didn't know him. And so it's been this new season of going, I'm done trying to build my kingdom. My kingdom is so dumb. I mean, over and over, my kingdom is dumb. Like, if you're listening right now, think about the last time that you got frustrated. I mean, just think about it. When was the last time you got frustrated? And whose kingdom or queendom was threatened in that moment? I mean, it's mine. Every time it's seeking first my kingdom. And Jesus is like, man, you can do that if you want, but my kingdom is way cooler because it works. Yours doesn't even work. So it's just been this 8-year journey of going, my kingdom's really stupid. And I'll tell you a little story, and love me through this, but one of this practice that I'm actually involved in this week, my 10,000 minute practice. So I have been with Sony for 2 records, and then I was dropped a year ago. And we're in other conversations now, and it's all wonderful, whatever. Jesus has opened those doors. It's not us. But I wrote this song 5 years ago, and Sony didn't want it. Another artist didn't want it. And I just thought, this will be my prayer, Jesus. This is just what it is. And it's a beautiful song. I loved it. And I had this sense about a year ago that it was supposed to be for one of my best friends. But in our industry, we don't go, hey, man, God told me I've got a song for you, and you need to cut the song. You know, it's just so dirty. And so I said, Jesus, if you want to open that door, you can. And if not, then whatever, I'm fine. My kingdom is not worth it today. And so I just had this sense it was for my friend, but whatever. So we're in my studio. We're about to do a podcast, and he starts breaking down, crying about his son with diabetes. And somebody had just said something to him like, have you ever thought about praying for your son? And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to reach out and hit you. It's just one of those Christian comments, And he then said the chorus of my song verbatim. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I ended up playing him this chorus, just saying, maybe this will just be encouraging for you. And then we rewrote the song together. And it was nominated for a Dove, and then we just got back from the Grammys this weekend. But here's the coolest thing. At the Doves, it's an award show for Christian music songs.
Right.
At the Doves, my heart was revealed at the Doves. Because as they were saying, and the winner is, I was like, please don't let it be that guy, because that guy's a dork. And they're lame. Or, you know what, I like that person. Or I really want to win because this is going to say something about me. If I win this thing, this will be really great for my career. Whatever. Tim's kingdom.
Right.
And I noticed how much that revealed this, like, the condition of my heart that wasn't beautiful. And so at the Grammys this past week, our practice was, I've got a friend whose back hurts him. Like, he has these spasms all the time, and he'll just talking, and then he'll go, oh, he'll go, something wonderful is going on. Like, Jesus is at work, even in the midst of this thing. And so I decided that's going to be my practice, that I'm just going to actually, every time something goes on, I'll just go, oh, something wonderful is going on. Like having this awe in God, like the fear of the Lord, the awe, the wonder of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Right.
And I want to be wise. And so we just decided this is going to be our prayer for my wife and I as we were at the Grammys. So before they said, and the winner is, for these 2 different Grammys, the winner is, I'm like, something wonderful is going on. Jesus, this is more about you than it is about me. And then they said, and it's Hillsong. I'm like, something wonderful is going on.
Right. And
it just literally like changed the whole way that I saw this experience that could have been this devastating, and people saying, oh, you're robbed. You should have won this thing. Whatever. It doesn't even matter, because my kingdom would have been like a part of that. And now that it's not really a part of that, it's like, cool. Jesus is way cooler than I am. So it's just kind of fun seeing that come to life.
Well, we're about to go to break, but while we're on break, I want people to go to 10,000minutes.com, and this story he just told you, and in parentheses, my Grammy goes to, and he tells you this exact story. You can subscribe to his blog, and you can text, and here's what I want you to text. Text 10K to 55678, and you'll get a weekly text reminder to your phone of the 10,000-minute blog, prayer, focus for the week of how to do church the way God intended it. He did not put a steeple in the upper room. He said, go out and make disciples of men. Yes, the 80 minutes in the church is wonderful, valuable, perfect. Relationships, lifelong friendships are formed. But life happens during those 10,000 minutes that you're not in church. And this is a way to do life differently. 10,000minutes.com. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we are going to talk to Tim Timmons more about the vision, about the work, about how this is growing, how it's spreading. And right now, be encouraged, because texting 10K to 55678, 10K to 55678 is going to come from Pakistan. It's going to come from Saudi Arabia. It's going to come from Israel. It's going to come because we're prime time right now in the Middle East, live right now. You're going to expand this to the parts of the globe that have hungered for, they don't have a place. They don't even have a place on Sunday to go for 80 minutes. All right? They're going to have in the palm of their hand, they're going to have their 10,000 minutes by doing it this way. God bless you for this. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Shalom. I'm the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, Executive Director of Igniting a Nation and host of the daily TV program Revealing the Truth, seen live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at www.ianbn.com, and then replayed throughout the day and night via our website. All of our segments can be seen on the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel. Since our launch in January of this year, we've expanded our global reach to over 54 countries with a social media following of over 125,000. Our commitment is to bring you the most in-depth interviews with authors, subject matter experts, and thought leaders from around the world. We have interviewed guests from Israel, Brazil, England, India, and all across North America. All of our authors are featured on the Books and Media page on our website, www.ianbn.com. There you can find a direct link to the book you want to order, and we receive a small commission directly from Amazon. There is no cost to you for this service. In addition to our daily teachings and interviews, we make available to you the archive of all of the interviews on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram channels. Our live program is available from our homepage, and there is never a charge to you for any of this access. We made the decision long ago that we would remain a commercial-free resource that would not be influenced by any pressure from any outside company. There are only two ways that we are able to continue to operate this ministry and provide you with the only live 4-hour daily Christian television talk show program. The first is through your support and tax-deductible contributions to Igniting a Nation. These can be made directly through the donate button on the website or sent through the mail to Igniting a Nation, 2700 Corporate Drive, Suite 120, Birmingham, Alabama, 35242. The other way we support the program is by offering you a unique opportunity to have access to over 10 years worth of teachings on a subscription basis. The teaching archives contains all of my prior sermons, Torah studies, prophecy in the news videos, and much more for the low subscription price of $5 per month. This subscription grants you unlimited access to over 800 hours of content not available elsewhere and is updated weekly with the most current prophecy classes. In addition to 20 hours of original TV programming each weekday, we invite you to join us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings for our Prophecy in the News classes. The times and locations are listed on our events page on the website www.ianbn.com. Every day, you and I are faced with the challenge of where we will go to hear the truth. We are committed to bring you the only program of its kind that covers the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. We cannot do this without your support. Since we launched on January 5th, 2017, we have aired over 300 individual teachings, interviews, and commentaries not available anywhere else. We are now working side by side with almost every major Christian publishing house to bring you the most in-depth feature interviews possible. Our 1-hour features address every subject that affects the believer's life. We are hearing of salvations from the Middle East, Africa, and all across the United States. Lives are being changed every day, and we have only just begun. Our mission is to become your trusted resource and grant you access to the people, tools, and information you need to grow in your relationship with the Lord. You can help us by liking us on social media and through your financial support. We know you have many choices in who you support, but we are prayerfully asking you to consider helping us keep revealing the truth, true to our calling, to cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth like no other program available. Donate today and help us bring the message to the four corners of the earth. Visit www.ianbn.com and donate, buy a book, or subscribe to our teaching archives. Without you, we do not exist. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Tim Timmons, most notable as a award-winning musician, but has opened up an entire new world in a movement called 10,000 Minutes at 10,000minutes.com. The fundamental principle, you spend 80 minutes in average in church and then 10,000 minutes of life, and God says go out and make disciples of men. Well, if we're not being discipled by God, then how can we be discipled? And you can't be discipled in 80 minutes. You've got to live a life of discipleship. And Tim has created this movement, and I want to call it a movement, and I want to see this thing grow around the globe as you text the words 10K to 55678. Go to our Twitter feed, our Facebook feed, our Instagram feed. You'll find it there. Just go to Igniting a Nation, and the information about how to jump on the bandwagon of 10,000minutes.com and join this and make this something that every city, every town, every community has. And to our audience in the Middle East and the Far East, to our audience in India, from Madras to Chennai to Hyderabad to along the Ganges River, we say to you, send that text, and they'll send that text message to you every week. Tim Timmons, welcome back to Revealing the Truth.
Cool, thank you. Thank you, honored.
Excited about what you're doing. So give me some of the genesis of this. When did you kick this off?
Yeah.
What's been the response, and how are you striking this balance? Because you still have a performance schedule. You're still out there doing music, but you're also driving this 10,000 minutes movement as well.
Yeah, I mean, the genesis of it was this understanding of, there are 10,080 minutes in a week, and 80 of those minutes, we gather as the church, which is beautiful, but then we scatter for the next 10,000 minutes. And really, how in the 80 minutes are we helping each other practice Jesus? And I love that. How are we discipling others when really we're not being discipled or being discipled by Jesus? And part of Jesus discipling us is him saying, hey, at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, whoever hears my words and puts them into practice all week long is wise. I will disciple you as you do these things. And let me just say this, that we are not loved anymore. There's no more grace if we practice these principles. I don't believe that he loves us more or loves us less. We are just loved. Grace just is like, yes. But he says, if you actually want to experience the fruit of my spirit, and if you want to be wise, then you'll do these things. It's almost like, I've spoken this recently, the commandment of there should be no other gods but me.
Right.
I've always, I mean, just love me through this. I've always seen that as not arrogant, but I've just felt it as this, you won't have any other gods but me, and I'm God, so suck it up. And I kind of always saw it with that tenor. But recently it hit me that he's saying, you guys, there are no other gods but me, because they don't work. And it's like changed my view and even how I'm practicing him. And it's like, you can practice worry if you want. So whoever's watching right now, listening, if you deal with worry, you can totally practice worry if you want, and you're still loved like crazy by Jesus. Or you can practice trust, and you will experience a whole different day. You can practice damning your neighbor or your enemy, or hating them, and you can totally do that. Go right ahead. Or you can practice praying for your enemy. I mean, there are just all these Jesus principles that are really, it's either wise or foolish. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to look more like Jesus at the end of the day. I'm looking more like Jesus at the end of my day as I'm putting his stuff into practice. So it just was this experiment that my wife and I and some friends decided to do a few years back. And it is just changing my life. It's changing so many people's lives now. So I get stories all the time of, thank you for your text or your reminders because I've been putting this into practice. Or so mostly I do this because it's changing my life. I look more like Jesus today than I did last year.
And what's so interesting is you went to the Dove Awards and people are dressed and they're in these exquisite gowns and outfits, just like the Grammys, just like the Country Music Awards. It's no different. There's the bling, there's the look this way, there's the look that way, there's the tats, there's the this, there's the that.
Yeah.
But that's not the model that God's given us to model ourselves after. He says, when I created man in my image, in my likeness. And then he gives us Jesus and says, this is the man whose likeness I want you to look like.
Totally.
I've given you a mirror to be a reflection of me, and you just keep missing out. You're busy fixing your hair. You're busy making sure your beard's straight. You're checking your teeth to make sure there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be a little God and trying to manage your family as if I'm God. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you Jesus, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make this really, really easy for you. Okay? I created you in my image. This is my image. This is my likeness. These are the things you're to say. These are the things you're to do. Here's how you're to love. Here's how you're to esteem. Here's how you're to speak. Here's how you're to walk. Here's how you're to act. Here's how you're to bless. You no longer have to wonder about the sixth day of creation of what I was intending to do. I've given you the image.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be Halle Berry. You don't have to be Johnny Cash. You just have to be more like Jesus. Now, this is a goal you're never going to obtain.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
You can't ever be that. But if you will walk along the way toward being more like Jesus, you will find the fullness of joy. You will find that when you're faced with adversity, that because your feet are planted on my way, that you will find comfort even in adversity.
Yeah.
Even in the depth of loss of a child, you'll find comfort because your feet are planted on my way.
Yeah.
I told you that in Deuteronomy 6, verses 5 through 9, when I told you to talk about me when you walk along the way. Then I told you when I sent you Jesus that he is the way. He's the same way I was talking about back in Deuteronomy. You just didn't get it. You thought it was some highway, some roadway, but I'm telling you it's a teaching, it's a pattern, it's a person, it's an image of me. That is the only way, and I want you to walk along that way.
Yeah.
And you give us this platform of 10,000 minutes to walk along that way. You are doing exactly what God commanded you to do, was to share his word, and you've come up with this creative way.
Yeah.
I love the blog you did on Pocket God. What I just have to tell you, one of my favorites. And if you're interested and you want to laugh, I come from a Jewish background, so it was especially poignant to me because we don't do any of these pocket anythings.
Yeah. Right.
We don't do the saints, and we don't do the I mean, my mother wants me to pray to her. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand that, and she thinks her son is God. I mean, that's a very Jewish thing,
Yeah.
and I live with that all the time. But the point of all this is that not only do you do something where you text them, but you blog, and they can follow along and track with your thinking, which
Yeah.
says, here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I don't have hair so that I have an easier way to lift off and let you into my brain. And I'm going to let you in there.
Please.
And if you walk out of their understanding, first be afraid, be just a little afraid because you got it. And you're starting to have a mind because I've bound my mind and intentionally to the mind of God. I stopped trying to bind it to pattern it after him and just said, just take it.
Yeah. It's more alignment.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
So if you can track with me, you're going to laugh with me, you're going to cry with me, you're going to feel pain with me, and you're going to understand God in a more personal way. And your 10,000 minutes are going to be just a little bit different than the 10,000 minutes last week.
Yeah.
And every week, and if we can start counting them down and how much closer I'm getting to using that 10,000 minute to become, instead of 1 minute at a time, it becomes like the Sabbath, which had no evening and morning. It was just an island of time. If this 10,000 minutes becomes a way of being, a way of living, it's no longer broken down into piece parts. It is now an entity unto itself. And I think that was part of your vision.
Yeah, and even that with the pocket God, that practice has been changing. It's been changing me. Like, if you're watching, the first thing you do when you wake up. What is the first thing that you do when you wake up? I mean, for me, I generally go straight to my phone. I just do, and it's this practice that I've gotten into that is not awesome because I go to my calendar, see what I'm doing that day, or I go to Instagram or do something, and I've just begun my day in a real me-centric way, egocentric way.
Right.
And so with that, the practice for that week, and I've just actually been doing it all day long ever since then, is I love these breathing prayers. I think there's something so beautiful about breathing in, Jesus, breathing out, you have my attention. In the mornings when you wake up, Jesus, breathing out, you have my attention. And I just started looking at all the things that I idolize, and whether it's my kids or my wife or my job or anything, my phone, and I started just breathing in, Jesus, you have my attention. And so with the text thing, which is 10K, 10K, and then you put to the number 55678. So it's like the person's their phone number is 55678, and the thing you put in the subject is 10K. The people that would get these text messages, they respond all the time via text, and I get all these responses of people going, perfect timing. I was just worshiping something else. And thanks for the reminder. So that's what's been so fun about really how do we as a church, as the church. Remember, church is not a place you can go or a thing you can do. It's who we are, gathered and scattered. How do we practice Jesus' invitations? So that's what's been changing my life and changing other people's lives.
Well, I'm going to confess
so cool.
to you. You know, we did 640 interviews last year.
You're a machine.
I just sent my text. It says, thanks for joining the 10,000 Minutes Mobile Club. Let's follow Jesus all week together. Reply stop to cancel message, and data rates may apply. I'm now one of your...
Oh, I'm honored.
You know, I get hundreds of pitches every week, you know, from every publisher, from every publicist.
Yeah, I bet you do.
From every artist.
Yeah.
I want to see how you're doing, because
awesome.
if it can take a Jew born new,
love that,
who came to the Lord at 44 years old, 22 years ago, if you can help me grow even more, and I
Yeah.
spend 24/6,
Yeah.
because I still take a Sabbath. All
I
right?
love that.
I
That's
spend
cool.
24/6 serving the Lord, speaking
I'm writing that down.
6
Keep
days,
going.
6 days a week and 3 nights.
Yep.
And if it impacts me, I'm gonna have you back on, and we're gonna have some more serious talks about this, because this is significant and important.
I love it.
What and this can be kind of an interesting framework for question, but this is something you and your wife did together. How has it changed the dynamic between the two of you? What does your marriage look like today before you started 10,000 Minutes?
Well, I'll just take it out of even 10,000 minutes of just us not working for Jesus anymore, but just trying to walk with him. I think that's been the game changer. And then, because it kind of was like, well, we're gonna start walking with him and see what he wants to do in our home or our marriage or whatever. Ultimately, we actually want to do 10,000 minutes for marriages, 10,000 minutes for parents, 10,000 minutes for kids. Something that you could practice with your kids, as a whole family, or I think marriage-wise would be such an interesting thing to actually have a text thread and reminding each other, hey, listen well today, whatever that would be, whatever Jesus principle that he would give us.
Yes.
Serve her today. Serve him today.
Yes.
So that's kind of in the
esteem
doctrine.
the other more than yourself. Let no unwholesome talk come from your mouth, but only that which is for the uplifting and correct. I can see the Proverbs. I can see the message of Jesus. I can see the greatest one-liners of all of history are recorded in a book of one-liners. That you have now created a platform for delivering the great one-liners of God. I'm excited.
It's so fun.
I'm excited.
And Jesus keeps opening doors. I stopped opening doors 7 years ago. So I stopped pushing my way in and saying, Jesus, this is what we need to do because I think this is the best thing for your kingdom, just so you know. And I stopped. I made a deal that I'm done doing that. And it was after that I signed this record deal with Sony. It's after that all these things happened, that the Grammy thing happened, that I'm on this show right now is not because I'm awesome or that I really pushed, but Jesus keeps opening doors. In this 10,000 minute thing, he's going to provide for us and he's going to figure it all out. And it's so cool. It's way more fun. It's kind of how we started. And you said something awesome. And the idea of it's just easier to let him be God and me not take that role. I mean, talk about shalom. I experience that the most when I'm just letting him be God and I get to be along for the ride and with him. And so pretty cool.
Well, you are here in Birmingham, Alabama on March the 3rd. It's the Mercy Me and 10th Avenue North live tour. Here in Birmingham, I'm going to be driving back from the NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters Association. I'm pretty sure that...
if you need tickets, you let me know. I know a guy. That's all I'm saying.
We'll talk.
Okay.
All right, we'll talk. All right, we've hit our time. Tim Timmons, God bless you, my friend. 10,000minutes.com. You can also find him at timtimmonsmusic.com for his whole calendar. He's getting ready to launch just a fabulous tour. 15 dates already on the calendar. I'm sorry, more than that.
I think there are 22 on this next tour.
22 dates on this next tour. Go see him. Sign up. Text. Send that text message. 10 in the top line. 55678 is the 2, and then in the body where you put what your message is, just put in the numbers 10 and then the letter K and hit send, and it'll automatically get you plugged in to Tim Timmons. And
if the rabbi can do it, you can do it, people.
Great. Exactly. And the rabbi just did it. So there you have it. Tim Timmons, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for being with us here on Revealing the Truth.
Thank you.
Shalom.
Honored.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.